right, everyone. Hello and welcome to another episode of Stu and the Nun. Haven't been back here for a couple weeks. I got a little lag going on here, but hopefully it's not too bad. And I want to welcome my good buddy Will. I didn't even ask you. I'm not gonna say your last name because I don't know how private you want to be. You do some secret squirrely shit, so I don't know. But I want to welcome Will to the show. Will is a very good friend. Runs in all the same circles with Toby and I and many others that have been on this show. And he's graced us with his presence tonight to come on and talk a lot of topics. So, Will, welcome to the show.
Man, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. It's pretty cool to get on here and actually be on something I've listened to multiple times. Just, I guess, quick little background on me. Central Florida guy, grew up in the country on a cattle ranch, did a bunch of redneck stuff and shot guns, killed things, did typical growing up on cattle ranch type things, and joined the military right out of high school, went in the Air Force, and surprisingly to me during basic, I got switched over to being a weather forecaster, and not exactly what I thought I was going in for. I was going to work on stealth fighters, and they said I shot too many guns and lost them here, and so they moved me to a different career field. But the cool thing was I got to work a lot of Army support by doing that, which was unexpected surprise. So I spent a pretty good bit of time at Fort Hood with First Cav, did Fourth Infantry Division. Spent time over in Korea with Eighth Army and did combined forces. I did, when I was in Iraq, I supported Fourth Infantry through. I was an Air Force deployment, but went and did some infantry stuff there. So I got to be around the guys that were doing the real work. As I just told them, it was going to be partly cloudy skies with a chance of rain. So I did that for 12 years. Decided to get out, join the family business. Made use of that GI Bill and got educated. So I have a couple pieces of paper, and now I'm a project manager for a Fortune 1000 company doing work in the utility business. So little different, but yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, that's wow. I got a number of topics we're going to talk about tonight, but there's some stuff I want to dig into there for a second. So there's always stories in the Army of guys. I had a buddy of mine, or a guy I was in basic with, who was, basic. You're sitting around talking and getting everyone's backstory and learning where they're from and blah blah blah. And remember him, he's like he was a country boy as could be, with a strong accent. And he was like, I'm like, so infantry, you want to do that? He goes, no man, I came in here to be a diver. I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, I'm coming to be a combat diver. I'm like, we're in the Army, dude. Not the name. No, I'm gonna be an Army combat. I'm like, cool. Why are you here? Anyways, the story came out was his recruiter told him, come in 11 X-ray infantry, and then once you get to your unit, you can put in, and they'll transfer you to be a diver. And I was like, granted, I was in basic too, but I was born at Bragg and raised, an Army brat my whole life, so I knew more than the average bear in there. And I was like, yeah, dude, that's not how it's gonna work. And but to hear that I came into work on stealth fighters, and oh, it's partly cloudy with a chance of rain.
Yeah.
That's
So that's true because I came in. I've always been mechanically inclined. I love working on stuff, and I don't know, when I see mechanical stuff, it just clicks for me, right? And so I got in, had a guaranteed job, crew chief on at the time it would be F-117s, and I was all gung ho for it. Got through basic, did the hearing test. I think it was like week 6, and they said, "Hey, you've lost some hearing in your right ear." And I remember very distinctly the firecracker going off next to my head when I was playing with a buddy of mine, and I shot a lot of guns as a kid. And so they said, yeah, you can't do that because you're going to be working on the flight line. So, okay, well, what can I do? And they gave me this big list, and I had picked like 14, 15 jobs. And the last one I picked was weather. I was like, it's kind of interesting. It's weather, whatever. It's the last one on the list. I'm not going to get that. And it turned out it was a critically manned career field. And so it was my choice of getting out of the Air Force because they couldn't fulfill the contract, or being a weather guy. So I was like, of course, 18, 6 weeks is forever. I put all this time in. I've got to stick it out. And so I went ahead and said, yeah, let me be a weather guy. And then off I went. It was kind of interesting, though, because a little bit of the history, and hopefully it's not too boring. I geek out on it. Uh, the Army Air Corps, that's why we still do weather support for the Army. So I didn't expect to be doing Army support when I got in, but as I was going through my initial technical school, there was an opportunity to go to jump school. And we actually have special forces weather guys, so they go and they jump with like a Joint Special Operations Task Force, Gray Berets. They also have ones that do regular jumpers, so they're embedded with the 82nd, 101st, and they go out and do combat weather. So I was going down that path, and then met a girl and things changed and I made different decisions. I had a second chance to get into it later on out of Korea, and then I was playing basketball and screwed my ankle up, and probably not a good time to go to jump school after that because just get worse from there. So I was one of those. Yeah, could have been that guy, but instead I just told the weather.
Yeah, but you're one of those guys like many others. And I met a girl, and then things changed.
That's exactly it. Yeah, a lot of great decisions made there.
Good, good. The no, you're right. Weather is important. I mean, we kind of joke and laugh, and I know we a couple of us have messed with you before about that, but I mean, it is. I was a mortar guy, right? So anything, any munitions or anything you're throwing high into the air that can be affected by atmospherics, artillery, mortars, rockets. Weather people are pretty important as an intel source to find out kind of where that thing's going to
Yeah,
move. And it was I was never like big into weather myself, except I was one day except wanting the weather to be what I want it to be when I go outside. But yeah,
yeah.
when I got into mortars, I mean, understanding met messages and getting all those lines of cryptic numbers and learning all that stuff was
Their
something
density
I
calculations.
yeah, that's why we always say mortar guys are the smart infantry, the smart grunts. We actually have to do math and stuff, and it's very important. And then went on to be in jump status and a jump master myself for a number of years.
Yeah,
Obviously, running up pie balls and getting winds at altitude and doing all that kind of stuff. Also very important when people are leaving an aircraft at high speed, that which way the winds are going to take them.
one of
But
my personal proud moments as being the weather guy that made a difference. I walked into a brigade, or actually it was a division targeting brief, and chief of staff was sitting there, and he goes, "Hey, weather, can we go?" And I just did a thumbs down, and he goes, "All right, scratch the aviation. We're going to go with artillery rods and set up a kill box. Blah 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 blah." All because I literally didn't say anything, just thumbs down, like helicopters aren't flying. So
just
we it was
a thumbs
my,
down. There's so much power in that thumb, in
yeah,
that
it was just
right
like,
there.
eh,
Just like
that was it. I didn't say anything.
kind of like
Um,
see, kind of like that. What was that the movie with what's his name at the like the Gladiator or whatever? You know what I'm talking about?
yeah, the
Yeah,
emperor,
where
like,
it's just the
yeah,
emperor, just yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I just killed your hopes of
that was
aircraft or
it.
whatever.
Yeah, the aviation brigade was all up and up happy about it. It didn't happen.
How many poor Joes that were hoping for a helo ride? This all if they would have known it was you, that just were like, nope, get on a freaking 5 ton, dude. You're bussing in. You're not special tonight.
Oddly enough, I was the only Air Force guy in my team that could drive the 5 ton. So I was when I got to Fort Hood, I'd spent a lot of time at the motor pool because, of course, us being the dumb Air Force people, they gave us all the crappy vehicles. So I had a
Yeah,
20%
you didn't get the
registration.
top notch. You got
No,
the thing with the class 3 leak when a high wind came.
yep,
It was like, well, I just
yep.
left on Friday. It was fine. Nope, your oil's all the way down the line. Get the
Dude,
freaking dry sweep.
they gave us a shelter truck, a 5 ton shelter truck with the expanded sides
Oh,
that had
nice.
no air conditioning, no air, nothing. It just had a big hole in the front that just blew everything in. So I horse traded and I brought beer to the guys. I got there and shaved them and did my own my own change outs of parts and things. I went in there and changed the knuckle out on a Humvee, and they're like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "Listen, man, I got to get this done. I'm going to get in trouble." And then they
Yeah.
kind of felt sorry for me, and they came over and started working with me. And
They were like, poor
yeah,
Air Force guy. He's got some weird rank on his. We don't know what that is. We
yeah, they
just
didn't know what
gotta,
the hell I was. Yeah. They said, "What
yeah,
are you?" "I'm staff sergeant." They're like, "Oh, well, that's pretty high." They're E5.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Good.
it was
When were you at Hood?
uh, 99 through 2002.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, after my time, but yeah, yeah. I got a couple tours in the Hood, and yeah, I
Yeah, Hood was
know that
something.
place well. It
Shoot, man, when I got there, there was like I think it was literally the week after I got there, the whole airfield got locked down. There was a command sergeant major. She was over, I think it was the transportation battalion, and it turned out she was like a regional drug lord. And so she had like all these gang members under her, and she had called out hits and literally killed civilians out on the northern training range. And so they locked down the airfield. And they had like federal marshals were up in the ridge lines around the airfield with snipers. They
wow.
were expecting a rescue, and they had that place locked down tighter than when the president came through. And they exfilled her out, and yeah, it was it was pretty exciting. And then we had gang warfare training from CID right after that.
Nice. I got to imagine that being a weatherman though at Fort Hood in the summertime's got to be easy. What's the weather day, guy? It's still effing hot, dude. It ain't changed.
Actually, it was hard as hell. It was because of
Really?
the dry line. Yeah, the Western Training Range. You have thunderstorms pop up constantly, or like there's that line of thunderstorms always in West Texas. It pops up and starts blowing through the training range. So we
But
had
but
weather
but then you
warning.
could just say it's partly sunny, a chance of rain.
No, we I got my only like really bad forecast was at Fort Hood. It was my first forecast where I was certified myself. There was a training exercise going on. And we had all these thunderstorms like right at 6 o'clock in the morning start blowing up everywhere. I'm like, where the hell are these coming from? Oh my gosh. I got decertified and I had to do extra training. It was a lot of fun.
Nice.
So
So you never, just out of curiosity, just that never enticed you to go down that path in the civilian world? I mean, it seems like something that you
not
could.
enough money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
The
like money better than I like weather.
not even on TV or nothing, huh? Probably takes a
Not
while to work
really,
your way up.
unless you're like the main weather dude somewhere, you don't really make a whole lot of money on
I mean,
TV.
that's probably why Jim Cantori probably just like goes to every shithole because if you could do that,
Oh,
like,
that's
hey,
it.
oh, tornado, I'll go. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
hell yeah. That's
damn,
why he gets paid so much. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. The most dreaded guy ever to see you don't want to see step out of a plane in your airport. Like, oh,
Yeah.
it's serious. But nice,
I've
nice.
never personally met him, but I heard he's a pretty big jerk.
Really,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess you probably get an ego from doing that and thinking you defy
Yeah.
God or something when
I guess so. You know what I
you
always said? We were in sales, not production. So
nice, nice. That's
yeah,
true. Yeah.
I don't make the weather. I'll just tell you what it is.
Yeah, total messenger. But no, I think you are probably our first weatherman ever of any professional weatherman that we ever have
I'm the
had.
first.
Yes, you broke a trail here, but hey, let's talk about a couple things. A lot of stuff's
Yeah.
happening. I haven't been here for those that are tuned in. I'm kind of looking at the numbers and seeing the chat here. For those that tuned in, I've been gone for a couple weeks. Been trying to record some shows. I was out of town for a little bit, and it's been tough. But things have not slowed down as they never have, and we actually won't even talk about many of the stories over the last couple weeks. But we've got a lot going on right now, and I mean, one was I want to hit on is this shooting in Denver. I gotta say, when I saw the school shooting yesterday, uh, I kind of thought to myself, I paused and said, "Has there been so many shootings that this just does not?" It's like it was just like oh, a school shooting, oh, it's terrible, or is it like? Then I started thinking, how many have there been recently? Am I missing them? And then I kind of went back and looked, like, no, they've been having pretty regularly, but they're getting so regular that it's just like, hey, there's a car accident on the highway kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but this one was unique. There was a lot of initial reports about, it was a developmentally disabled young man, and they frisked those people and this, and then there was a lot of hoopla over the teachers or the parents never knew, and everything. And then, he shot two people, administrators trying to frisk him down. But what really got me out of the whole thing was that they didn't have they did not have a SRO, student resource officer, which are typically local law enforcement that get assigned to the schools in there. They didn't have any kind of law enforcement. I don't know what the admin's background was. None of them doing it. But I kind of thought, what would have happened if they'd have found the gun? If they're not properly trained to secure it and do that, or were they just like an assistant principal and a security guy or whatever teacher? But it was
Yeah.
like, if you're frisking people actively, it seems like either you're so used to doing that or you just did not think about being prepared. And that's probably the biggest thing that got my attention and made me think about it. I'm wondering what your thoughts were on that, on the so thing, same thing, or if there was something else that kind of stood out to you from anything from that shooting.
Oh, absolutely. That was the first thing that popped out. It's like, why are these administrators? I mean, and it was obviously from the news story at least that I read. It happened multiple times. It wasn't just like this was a first time where the frisking happened. This was like a daily occurrence kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I'm going, okay, well, if you've got a daily occurrence, why is this kid still coming to school? Obviously, there needs to be some sort of intervention there because if you have that much concern, or and that would just be the thing as a parent that would pop into my head. And then the other is just like you were saying, what if they did find the gun? Okay, they pulled it out and we saw what happened. They didn't secure it right. They didn't have the spacing right. So obviously, somehow the young man was able to get his hands on a firearm, or either on that firearm or another one that he had. And it just doesn't seem like it was really well thought out. Like they tried to do it, but they did it like really like civilians would. And instead of someone that's trained to control an area, control a space, separate a person from the where the weapon could be stored or what have you. And it just seemed like a lot of bad decisions with good intentions possibly behind them.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned like the how to say. I mean, there's obviously a way that security forces and military and law enforcement, especially military, kind of do a little bit differently, but we're not as kinder and gentler when you're trying to secure someone. But you know that there's a way to do it, right? There's a way to approach. There's a way to angle yourself, and what to look for. Like we always talk about, right? The hands are the most dangerous part, right? We always watch the hands and stuff. Um, and I wonder where, I mean, we don't know, but were they trained to do that? Or were they just like, hey, we're just going to pat you down and what is this in your pocket? And without doing the right thing, if that is that the cause. And I'm kind of thinking that may have been what's happened when we hear that now, I guess the city council of Denver had voted to remove all armed law enforcement from the schools or the high schools a while back, but the superintendent unilaterally made the decision yesterday that nope, we're putting a cop back in there for the rest of the year, or a couple of them, or something.
Yeah.
And so, just for whatever reason they removed him, I'm going to assume it's because of the whole BLM and movement that happened over the last couple of years, that they wanted to appear gentler and kinder and defund the police kind of stuff. But how quickly that changed. I guess the superintendent didn't need to get approval to put him back in there, but I mean, talk about hindsight 2020. um
Well, that's what happens when people make these decisions based on unicorns and rainbows and where they think things should be in a nice, perfect society. I mean, there's a balancing act. You don't want to get so cynical, personal opinion, obviously, but you don't want to be so cynical that you just completely shut down stuff and everything's security apparatus. But on the other side, you do have just the realities of the world. And the school resource officers serve a purpose. They're trained, they're armed, they're able to handle those situations. I mean, they're wearing body armor, right? They're
right.
obviously able to more effectively take care of a situation like that than a school administrator. And then, just making arbitrary rules because, well, we don't like that we have to have a cop in school. Okay, well, then you have to change the fundamental factors that create the scenario or the environment where the cop is necessary.
Right.
And I don't see an approach to that. They just ignore that part. And then after the fact, they're like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. And then, the school superintendent makes a unilateral correct decision after the fact. But, that can happen is because the truth hurts. And when reality smacks you in the face, you can't really hide from it anymore behind, some really good intentions.
Yeah, that's a like I say, it's a shame you have to have them. I remember when they started putting metal detectors in schools, and people were like, I can't believe we have to have metal detectors in schools, and what a shame. And it is. That's just the way society was turning. And then people going, I can't believe churches have to have security. Well, that's just the way it's happened, right? Like things have changed. But be prepared and be ready to. There's no sense in saying I wish I should have, could have. It's the same reason why people say, why do you carry? Why do you conceal carry? Why do people do that and that kind of stuff? I don't know. Why do you have a fire extinguisher? I mean, why do you have an insurance policy? It's hope you never need it, right? You don't want to have to execute that insurance policy if your house burns down, but or anything happens, but you have it just in case.
That's right.
It's and it's like anything else, especially as being project management, right? You document a lot of things when you do projects of any kind. You have project managers, not because things go right, it's because things go wrong. I tell my PMs that work for me all the time, where we have them because our projects are not easy and things go wrong. Otherwise we would not need project managers. They're CYA, right? They're an insurance policy,
Yeah.
to go back and find out where things were missed or why things went bad, something like that. And you pay a little bit extra for SRO or maybe your own private security or whatever, but at some point, one day you're going to have it, and you would pay anything to have that person there, right? When it goes bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, and it also something you just said just triggered the thought. What was the policy? They pulled these SROs out. Did they have a policy for dangerous situations or students that had a high probability of causing an issue? What was the policy? Do you call in local law enforcement at that point? And then did they actually follow what was supposed to happen, or did they just pull this resource officer out and just kind of let it go to the administrators? And you have a bunch of people who aren't trained in that at all of a sudden trying to do risk mitigation in a obviously deadly situation with a student who has some real significant issues. And this wasn't a big guy. I think it was what
mm,
I read was 5'5", real skinny. It's
yeah,
pretty small person. And just like you said, it's all about the hands, right? You got to keep the hands steady. That you control the hands, you control the situation, right? Because they can't
right.
point a gun at you if your hands are controlled. But does an administrator have the ability to restrain a student like that? I would think probably not on the surface, and they're just not going to react that way.
Well,
They're not
and
looking for those things.
look at that student a few weeks ago that got mad at the female teacher for taking his Game Boy away
Yeah,
or
beat the
whatever.
mess out of it.
That dude
Yeah.
was like 6'6" and 270 or something, right? They're not all. I mean, you and I would have had we would have had a fight. It'd have been a tussle,
Oh yeah,
right? And this kid was 17, 18, and they just got to be prepared. It's at some point, I would say, I would hope, but I don't think it'll ever happen. People will start to wake up and realize that maybe it doesn't appear well, but it's necessary for the society we live in, and we should be more worried about that than. And I know what the parents are worried about is that, like you said, this has been happening for a while, and the parents never knew it. No letter went home,
yeah.
nothing like that. But yeah, and then yeah, so
I guess on
and
the
unfortunately they found him. He took his own life, I guess. They found him in the woods. He killed
right.
himself. And obviously the disturbed young man, for whatever reason. I mean, it's a shame that he did that. They couldn't find out why, and hopefully save his life and turn things, but he probably got to a point which he knew what he had done and realized that was the only way he just thought that was the only thing he had, and
It's
took that way.
tragic.
Yeah.
Well, and I've said multiple times to friends and groups, I think our nation has a real mental health crisis more than it has a gun issue. I mean, guns have been around for a long time, and we have millions and millions of guns in this country. I have several right in my house. Some of them got lost in a boating accident, but that's a
I
different
know. I
story.
hate when that happens. I hate when
Yeah,
that happens. I
it
got to
was
be
rough.
careful when I'm putting them on the side of the boat, my boat. I really do, because I,
Yeah,
I I boat around above the Niagara Falls. So if they go over that, they're gone. I mean,
they're
just
gone.
they wouldn't survive the fall, right? But no, it's funny you mentioned it. You brought up a topic that I was thinking about the other day, and I almost did a quick show about was President Biden. Oh, was it a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, signed another executive order about guns, and
Yeah,
made a whole bunch of hoopla. I went out to California, burned a lot of gas to go out there, and went out to California to do some Dem fundraiser and signed this thing about closing loopholes, blah, blah, blah. Now, what's interesting is that he did the same one a year ago, signed pretty much the same executive order a year ago. He just re-signed the same thing, and in this executive order was and he said this in his speech, and that's why it got my attention, and it reminded me when you said it was he talked about he was increasing funding for mental health support, not for people that have mental health problems, but for those that are victims of gun violence. So he was increasing funding and whatever visibility or whatever funding and
yeah,
resources for people that are suffering from mental health issues because of gun violence. And when I was listening to him when he first said it, I said, and I thought, is he actually going to tackle the problem? Which, like he says, the mental health problem, not a gun problem. And he shifted it right to that. And I was like, oh man, no way. I mean, it's just,
yeah,
yeah, just totally, you know, just saw the train coming, like, oh, I should walk in front of that,
yeah.
just
No, he
clueless.
let the tree run through,
Yeah,
blow up the truck on the track, and then drop the gates after the train was gone. That's
right.
what that does.
But I mean, yeah, no doubt people that are victims or loved ones of people with gun
Oh,
violence
sure.
have struggle and have issues, just like anyone that loses somebody, especially someone something senseless. But not to focus on the mental health issue. I mean, we talked about it here in case after, whether it's Uvalde, Texas, Buffalo, New York, anywhere, all these shootings, right? There've been nothing but red flags. There've been nothing but mental issues. It's been so much that if you were to have a shooting that wasn't preceded by a whole bunch of red flags and somebody with mental issues, it would be such an anomaly. It would get everyone's attention. But now it's so common. You're just waiting for it. You're like, when are the neighbors and friends going to come out and say, "Yep, we knew it was going to be old Bob. He was,
Yeah.
you know, he was laying in the prone in front yard every day when the kids got on the bus. We knew it was going to be him." But yeah. So, anyways, I just want to bring that up because when he said that the other day, I was like, I perked up, and then he's like, when he said it, I was like, oh, okay, he's still not really caring about what the problem is. But yeah. So all right, another thing we're definitely gonna get to the VA. I'm saving that one to the end because that's a big one. We have this today. Current thing was the TikTok. Are you on TikTok?
I have a TikTok account. I use it sparingly.
Okay, I should quit texting you. They're probably following me now.
That's actually why I uninstalled it, and then I
Yeah.
went back and I limited all the permissions because I saw some of the stuff that came out with how much data mining they're doing. And it's, I mean, all of the social media sites do data mining.
Right.
But
Websites
the
do.
love,
Websites do.
yeah, absolutely. It's common, right? Except TikTok has seemed to take it a level further. And when I saw all the stuff they have access to, I was just like, good Lord, they see everything on the phone. You know, it's really kind of scary. It goes beyond what I'm used to, even with like Facebook or Twitter.
Right. Yeah, I never installed it. I've looked at TikTok, you can see them on the web and people send me a link and I'll watch it on the web, but obviously I have no client, I have no account, and I have just about every other social media there is, but I never had because I heard about that stuff from the get go. Even though I probably shouldn't care, any of us that have ever had security clearances, all of our stuff got leaked via the leak that happened to the Chinese.
Yeah.
Anyways, the OMB leak, but yeah, so I still never have, but obviously the TikTok CEO was in front of Congress today. I mean, everyone knows, just like in Russia, the ruling communist party of China,
Yep.
he owns every company, can make them do whatever and all that kind of stuff. And the 150 million people in the US, just in the US, half of the US on TikTok. um Calling them in about should they ban. Obviously, the government just now banned it, even though a week ago the president did a video on TikTok, and then now
Yeah.
it's now banned from every agency. But had him in front of there today, and did you get a chance to watch any of that and how what he said and how he answered some of those questions?
No, I was busy with work. I did do some reading on it though, and I was listening. And the thing that stuck out to me the most from the news article I read, it's like he's like, "Hey, don't worry, guys. We're going to monitor this, and we're going to monitor it in America because that's going to make it safe. So trust us. We got this because we're going to make TikTok Data Security LLC." It's like, what? So that's your big plan to make everybody cool. Like, we're going to hire Americans to work in an American data center under an American company that's owned by a Chinese company that's owned by half by the Communist Party of China. So it's
Yeah,
like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, that doesn't give me any feeling of like, okay, this is great. Because I mean, obviously we stream stuff all over the world. Everything's interconnected. Whether
right.
that data centers in America or external makes zero sense difference whatsoever as far as a data packet. So it seemed like a bunch of smoke and mirrors and stuff just to kind of push everybody off to make it look like they're doing something. It's security theater.
Yeah, I kind of got the same impression. I watched a few snippets today while I was working, but I got the same impression of they might as well have been saying, we're from the government, we're here to help you. I mean, it was
Weird out.
just,
Yeah.
and he was asked some what was nice to see was it was bipartisan. You didn't have the grandstanding of the Cory Bookers and all that kind of stuff up there trying to get their 10 minutes and 15 minutes of cameras. They were very connected. We've had enough times where tech people, whether it be Jack Dorsey from Twitter or Zuckerberg or whoever in front of there, and it's like some of the members of Congress asking questions, and you almost want to say, you realize you're not connecting via a modem anymore, right? Like, the dude doesn't have a pager,
A little dated. Yeah.
but they were seen very on point, very specific questions, very respectful of each other. All that was like, cool, look at this, they actually can get along.
Yeah.
But they were asking some stuff, and he was a great spin master. I'm sure he prepped a lot and had a lot of people prep him, but I mean, it was I think everyone saw right through it that when they asked him when he said, we don't sell it, we don't do that, we don't sell it to give it the data brokers, and the one congressman said, I didn't say anything about data brokers, do you give the data away? And he wouldn't answer that. And then
Yeah.
they said, can it be accessed? He's like, well, yeah, we have employees in China. So yeah, people in China can see the data, and it was, he did his best, but I don't know how effective he was in convincing anyone that the stuff doesn't get shared. And like you say, the terms and
Yeah.
conditions and the data that you allow is far beyond what many other applications have ever asked for.
Well, and I
Um,
also wonder about the algorithms and how it pushes information to us. Obviously, I'm not an independent researcher and I can't verify this 100%, but I saw a pretty compelling video, and then it was followed up with some other news stories that seem to follow that the algorithm in China really pushes different content to the youth. Like, it's showing that science is cool.
Well,
And
yeah, for China TikTok, I've heard the same thing. They don't
yeah,
have near the stuff we have. Their stuff is all STEM related. it's like, flashcards and like online homework kind of stuff and that kind of stuff. They don't allow them to do the crap that they do here, which is just,
Yeah, here's garbage. Go
right.
out and shake your butt. And I think one of the worst ones I saw was a guy that jumped on his vehicle and was surfing it as he's driving down the road, and he crashed into like a light pole and ran over somebody's truck, and it flew him off the hood. And he's like, shocked that it didn't work. So
It's
that's
like
cool.
neighbors living next to each other, and one family their kids eat healthy and balanced meals and all this stuff, and the ones next to them are just shoving in junk food. Well,
Yeah,
that kind
yeah,
of happens in
exactly.
America a lot now that I think about it. They're just shoving junk food in all the time, and the other one's like, no, you're not eating that. You're gonna eat healthy, well balanced
Yeah.
diets, right portions, that kind of stuff. Yeah, they have their own TikTok, they have their own name and that kind of stuff, and yeah, I'm just not sure how convincing it's going to be, but Americans thirst for instant gratification and victimization and 15 seconds of fame and everything like that. I don't, obviously right now it's making one thing was said interesting today. I don't know if it was Gutfeld or who had said, well, hey, it's just going to make the youth, the Gen Zs, just hate the Biden administration because they just see it as the government getting rid of TikTok, banning TikTok, right? So if anything, it could be very detrimental against the party that's in power if they do that, because the young look, young people in the teens and early 20s, they're not thinking about the Chinese taking their data. They don't give a crap. They don't think, what do they want my stuff? Look, how you think you're invincible, right? You don't know. You're just like, you can't think about, in 30 years when you're doing something and you're executive for a company and, all of a sudden something pops up and your whole TikTok chat and stuff you watched and stuff all of a sudden gets,
All right, it gets
released.
weaponized.
Right, right.
Right.
So it'll be interesting.
Well, not only that, but China plays the long game. They always
Right,
have.
right.
They're not looking at short-term strategy necessarily. I mean, they do, but that's not their big play. Their big plays long-term, multi-generational domination. They've been growing China. They have become, I think, the world superpower. I think they have eclipsed us now. Our Navy is now absolutely being challenged. We don't have naval dominance anymore across the world. With things that have changed with our military, and then the growth of China's industrial base and their modernization of their military, we definitely have somebody that we can't really just win a war with. It's not like we can just flex muscles and everything's good. Now we have this mutual dependency where we buy a bunch of their crap and they need us to buy their crap, but they're actively working to supplant that and have other economies use them as their primary source of supplies and materials. That way they're not as beholden to American interest and our consumer power in order to be able to have a successful country. So all of this to me is just part of their plan, and they are taking the big picture, and this is a strategic move where they purposely are engaging in information warfare, but they're doing it much more subtly than like Russia did. Russia was kind of the blunt hammer and really was obvious in their interference with a bunch of our things. China's been much more subversive, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that, because what that's something I've noticed in the fact that countries that aren't westernized and modern and mature all play the long game, right? Countries like us and even Russia. I don't think Russia plays the long game either. Us, Russia, Great Britain, several European countries, not all, are very much focusing on the 5 and 10 meter targets right in front of us, because we're so consumed with all these capabilities and data and information we have handy. Not everyone in China has access to information, like a lot of people in
Sure.
the Middle East don't have access to information, so they don't have that so much and so overload of, they're not, taxi cab, karaoke and the Kardashians and the Bachelor and all these social medias that they're always thinking about, how do we survive, we're the underdog, right? And Russia, I don't think ever saw themselves underdogs, so they kind of didn't think that way. But
Right.
China, they've, like I said, they've been quiet. They worked their way in when Clinton, gave them favored nation status on trading, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that was really the tipping point of it. They have just been, working it to where they were completely dependent on them, right? And they don't care about shoving their people into, working 18-hour days building, whether it be iPhones or crap for Dollar General.
That's right.
And then when you're communist government and you run everything and own anything and you take your cut, you know you don't care if you're making quality or crap, you're still getting a piece of it. So that's what I've seen, is those countries that have lacked to my opinion, technology advances and information and all that stuff seem to always be the ones playing the long game.
Yeah.
That's why, Afghans have the saying, you can't buy an Afghan, but you can rent them. Right. Or, the Americans have the watches, but we have the time, right? They're fine with just waiting everybody out.
Yep.
They don't need instant gratification, but yeah, it's interesting that you put it that way. Yeah. So, what do you got? I brought up a couple topics. What do you have on your plate? Do you want to chat about anything in particular?
Talk about the weather some more, right?
Well, it's 40 and 40 and cool here in Buffalo. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it's like 86 here right now. So yeah, but I'll be in Philly next week, so I get a little bit of it.
Yeah, you go back forth. Yeah, Philly. That's a friendly city.
Oh yeah,
That's
it's
right.
it is an interesting city to be sure. It has a varied culture and safety rating across the city. You never know what you're going to run into there. It's
Yeah.
been an experience for sure.
So, what do you got? You got anything for besides weather? I got some more
You
topics. I
know,
want to make sure I give you a chance though.
I don't know if you're wanting to wait till the end, but boy, that VA disability thing's really been sticking in my craw since I saw it in our text message the other day and did some reading on it.
But let's hit on. We'll hit on that now. We're getting pretty far in the show. Let's open that up and let's educate some of our listeners and viewers. I think on that they probably don't know about that.
Yeah, so everyone that's listening, there's a new deal going through. It's a rule that they're proposing to where they're going to start means testing all veterans who are receiving disability compensation. So, and probably most people listening to this know what that is, but for those that don't, a veteran or a person serves, something happens while they're on active duty, right? Either while they're in a war zone, they get a combat related injury, or they have some other service related injury that disables them to some percentage. Then it goes through the VA. There's VA evaluators that do medical evaluations. You have multiple rounds of this. Takes a lot of time usually, and they determine a percentage of disability based on whatever your situation is, and you get multiple evaluations. Once that's locked in from your date of disability to whatever the determination date was, you get back pay for that, and then you get a regular paycheck for a disability payment for basically the rest of your life. Every single month based on that percentage. What they're talking about doing now is saying that for veterans who have a disability, they have a rating that's coming in, they're getting a paycheck. They're going to prorate that paycheck, or they're going to reduce it based on means testing. So if you make a certain amount of money, I guess your disability has been cured. So in effect, I think it's $170,000 if your joint income, your household income on your tax return is 170,000 or greater, you get nothing. As you go down from that, you get little pieces until I think it's down like around 60,000, then it's like 100% or something along those. And then my numbers might be a little off, but I'm pretty firm on that 170,000. And the interesting thing here is it's not just the veterans income, right? So say I'm unemployed and I have a 50% rating and I'm getting 1,200 or 1186, I think is what 50% does right now every month. And that's because I'm messed up. My wife gets this really awesome job and she makes some great money, and she's making 180,000 a year. Well, all of a sudden I'm not disabled anymore, even though I still maybe can't work, or I have limited issue or a limited ability to do certain types of jobs. My income is still impacted, but because my wife makes good, this rule would mean I get nothing, right? And so any veteran out there, their pay is going to shift and fluctuate based on success. And I think that's just counterintuitive, because just because I was successful and I got a job that pays me pretty well doesn't mean I'm any less disabled. It just means I had
Right.
to work harder to get to where I got to. And instead, what they're doing is taking, like, hey, you sacrificed, you have these injuries, we verify that you have a disability, and we're all saying this is legit. But because you make a lot of money, we're going to go ahead and rip that away from you, and you just got to deal with your disability. Whereas somebody else, it basically becomes a welfare kind of thing, and it's
Yeah.
just another way to take care of veterans maybe who are lower income by pushing money to them, and it's a cost savings measure at the expense of veterans who have served and sacrificed.
I think it's definitely a cost saving because I don't think unless they're going to increase going to others. But I mean, how are they going to handle with CSRC with combined with the CSRC? Those that get disability in addition to retirement, what are they people? What if older veterans that get Social Security and Medicare? Does that count? Do they take it away? Yeah, it's now. Is this is just a rule they're considered? Do you know if does this have to go through Congress to get approved?
Not for a rule, it doesn't. So that's where, and I'm not familiar enough with the disability law because you have rules from the regulatory from the VA regulatory agency that have to go through the rule process. It's all executive branch. Then you have the laws that actually are congressional. So if they're trying to find some kind of middle ground in the law to be able to put this rule through, that then goes through a whole different process. And so then there's a public comment period. It goes through the administration, and then ultimately the secretary of the VA is the one that approves this thing, unless Congress steps in and does something about it.
Right.
Because this was not, it didn't look to me like a sponsored law. It looked like a rule change.
Right. Yeah, I would imagine Congress would get involved. I can't imagine this country would allow that to happen. Because, like I say, friends of ours that we know, I mean, people and a lot of our listeners, viewers know there's people get disability for a number of issues. I mean, one of the most common, right? They're missing appendages, they're missing body
Yeah,
parts.
it doesn't grow
They're
back because you make money.
right there. I know. I mean, I know blind people that are professionals in I've had at some major companies that have been customers of mine that are completely blind that come to work every day, and they've accommodated for that person that are holding senior level positions that make very good money, but they've lost their eyesight, and if they lost it because of combat or whatever, that doesn't mean they don't, it's for that. And yeah, this would be I just, I guess we got to wait and see. I know that kind of bubbled out. It came out of Twitter through someone the other day. It'd be interesting to see where they go with it, but I would imagine there would be major uproar to do that, because there's a lot of folks that suffer, whether it be physical, mental, or not having a same quality of life as anyone else that they gave for this country. To say, I mean, what happens if someone, what's next, right? Someone's a veteran dies. Well, he made good money when he died and has a good insurance policy, so we're not going to provide any of
Yeah,
the burial
never pay it
benefits.
out.
You
Right,
know,
where's it stop?
right. And
Yeah, but
really
contracts.
that promotes the sadly, that promotes the welfare mentality and entitlement mentality. Hey, just look what we saw over the last couple of years when COVID happened. So many people got laid off or didn't work, and they collected extra money, and the government gave them extra money because of COVID, and then they didn't want to go back to work because they were like, I make more money between my state and the federal government on top of my unemployment. Why would I go back and wait tables or do this or do that? I could sit at home and do nothing and make more money. That's exactly what that would. People would say, hey, I could probably do better and progress and maybe get a raise or do whatever. Why? I can, I get 100% or 80% disability, making 1,500 1,800 a month, depending on family members and all that stuff. Why would I, take a job that knocks me out of that,
Well, exactly, or like a promotion, right?
right.
So, it's kind of like the tax thing when you go to those new tax brackets. So they're going to do the same thing with disability. And so here I am, and say again, I'm going to use 50% just because I know the numbers. And you get 12,000 a year coming off 50%, and I get a $6,000 raise because I did good at work. And now all of a sudden I lose my disability. So I have no difference, even though I did well at work,
Right.
overcame things that are my disability puts up in front of me. So I got all this stuff going on, and yet they can just go, nah, I don't think so. You're going to take that off. You make too much. You're too good.
Yeah.
What the heck kind of statement is that in America, where you say you're too good? You did too well, so we're going to take away from you now.
Right. Right.
Just doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to me.
And it
Same with
doesn't balance out because
that.
that disability is tax free, right? It does
Yeah.
not get taxed. And,
Oh yeah,
it's
because it's total. The net's going to be less. Because if I
right.
lose the disability and it's replaced with income that I made because I worked hard in promotion, well, this is taxed.
Right.
This isn't. So I actually made less overall.
Fed
So
state.
my success
Yes.
working harder punishes me.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. The yeah, we'll just see where that goes. Hopefully it's just a bad idea fairy that someone has, and it gets shot down and flushed out real quick. But it'll be something to watch. But I would say a couple years ago, I'm like, there's no way any other time, there's no one would ever consider. I can't believe someone thought this up. But man, look at the shit we've seen be passed and come up with in this country's done. I mean,
That's
really,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah, there's nothing that's not possible, I guess, is the thing. But
And that's
yeah,
why I look at these kind of things is when they pop up, they need to be stamped out as quickly as possible. It's kind of like an ember of a fire, right?
right,
Somebody comes up with this really stupid idea, and somebody else goes, you know what, that makes a lot of sense because yeah, stuff. And then next thing you know, you got that stupid person talking to other people, and a lot of people that don't really understand or didn't think about it, and they go, oh, that's a really great idea. We really need to do this. And then next thing you know, you get something really dumb that screws a whole lot of people over.
Yeah.
out on the street because we just didn't get in front of it ahead of time. So, you know, I'm wondering if DAV is really looking at this, or you know, some of the other VSOs, if they're trying to
Yeah.
kind of get in front of this, or if they're just kind of sitting back to see how much legs it really has.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, the Legion, VFW, all the different VSOs have a lot of lobbyists and have a lot of influence. I got to imagine that they are watching this to make sure it doesn't get anywhere near anything. But yeah, as Rob said, right, in our chat,
Yeah.
send billions to Ukraine, but we can't pay our veterans. But you know, if you're a veteran, you go to Ukraine, you can go over there and get some new weapons or something. Um, but
Yeah, it is. You do have a good opportunity to pick up something cool. You just don't know if you can get it back.
right, right. The and you just kind of tiptoe through the artillery to get there. But yeah. So
Then it would be
on,
like Trump charges. That's a big one.
yeah, yeah. We've been waiting with bated breath. I mean, last week when President Trump come out and said that he was expecting, and all the news were already rumoring that he was going to be indicted 2 days ago. He came out in all caps. Kind of put up a big thing on Truth Social, and everyone was kind of waiting around, and as it's never could tell. I mean, I've learned with President Trump that what I saw early on in his political career to what I saw happen throughout was when first I used to think, man, he's just flying off the handle. This dude does not think before he types or says something. But I learned throughout that he never said anything that did not come true and was not for a reason. And I realized he was really savvy. No matter what people think, I'm like, this dude is savvy. He said that for a reason. He did that for a reason. He kept it in the forefront. Maybe that was the reason, because everyone watched it. They didn't wait around for Tuesday to happen. So the questions started happening. Congress started inquiring, and it looks like right now, nothing happened. Obviously, 2 days in a row, they tell the grand jury to stay home, but it was after apparently some really damning testimony by a lawyer that testified against his old attorney Cohen, and it looks like the case may be coming apart. But I think a lot of folks on the left and right, especially on the left, said, why would you do this? You're guaranteeing him to win in 2024.
Yep.
In
Yeah,
fact,
that's it.
people were
It's
kind
a
of,
high risk.
there were rumors that President Trump was hoping to have the mugshot, was hoping to have this happen because he knew what it was going to do. But yeah, so this is out there. Is it going to happen? Not happen? At the same time, you have this just same thing. I think a grand jury is looking at things in Georgia. You have that going on, and you have obviously the January 6th stuff that's not really grand jury, that kind of thing going on. But it seems that all these things are just doing nothing but, I mean, he's like 30, 40 points above DeSantis on all the GOP polls. It
Yeah.
seems like all it's doing is just inflating and making him more and more popular. Do you think that's what, do you think they thought about that
I do.
stuff?
I think a lot of the resurgence of the favorability towards him, because there for a while DeSantis was really getting up there, and there was
Yeah.
I think a legitimate case that he could have really given a lot of competition to Trump in a primary. But you know, this whole the whole indictment piece, all the charges, and it's multiple states that are coming in that are doing this. I think it's really taken the core Trump supporters and just Republicans in general and going, hey, wait a minute, this is a witch hunt. Doesn't seem legit. They're going after him for the wrong things, or maybe things that maybe they shouldn't go after him at all. And this is the first president, I think, ever to be pursued with criminal charges after being in office. This is just really bolstering the support with a bunch of people digging their heels in and going, no, this is big government. It's a government witch hunt. This is not correct. And this just proves that he's right, whether he was or not.
Right.
And that's, I think that's where the kind of the people, the voter blocks are going at this point, because there's been a huge shift over the last couple months.
There has. You're right. It looked like DeSantis was really climbing up there and may take it. I mean, and I guess for me personally, I mean, I hate seeing. I got to imagine there's a reason, but I mean, I hate seeing Trump attack DeSantis and DeSantis attack
Yeah,
Trump. It's like, dude, you guys got enough people. You need to go back to back because you're circled. You shouldn't be fighting amongst each other because they got the Indians are circling around you.
that's right.
But
The
but
things they do to each other, whoever wins out in the primary, that's who's going to be damaged overall by it, because the Democrats are absolutely going to take any of those valid fighting points and then use them against them. I mean, that's how it's going to go.
Right.
I
But
think
the
that's
interesting thing is they both agree on a lot of the same policy.
yeah,
They're not
absolutely.
they're very similar in a lot of their thoughts. So it would I don't know how they're going to distinguish themselves, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. And
Maybe DeSantis will be like, I'm not on Twitter.
yeah,
That's the big difference.
yeah. That's his, but Kamala, this difference between Republicans and Democrats, right? She pretty much called Joe Biden racist during the primaries, and
And
he
yeah, now
picks
they're
her.
fine. They're buddies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, he needed identity politics, right? So he said he was going to pick a black female, and
Now there you are.
Elizabeth Warren identified as the wrong type of demographic. She should
Yeah, well, 160 or 152nd Indian or something like that.
yeah, she should have been
American.
like that NAACP chick out in Seattle that claimed she was
Yeah.
what's her name? Start with a D there, but yeah,
Yeah, I
uh,
can't remember her name. That was wild though. I mean, she obviously was not, and she fooled a lot of people somehow.
well, she showed people you can identify as whatever you want. I mean,
Yeah,
right now, Will, you could identify yourself as a Filipino amputee female if you want. You could just
I
whatever you
think I'm
feel like.
going with a female oak tree.
Oh, okay. You like to have woodpeckers peck at you? Is that what you? Is that
That's
what you?
it, man. I want to be a safe haven for birds everywhere.
There you go. That's an interesting. I did not see that one coming.
Yeah,
But
never know.
yeah. So we'll see what happens. I mean, obviously, it keeps his name in the forefront. I mean, the dude has never had to like buy much publicity because the left media gives it all to him. But
Yeah,
who doesn't like publicity, and that's Hunter Biden, and
no,
uh,
trying
and
to hide.
he and he is back in it as thankfully Comer is heading up this investigation from the House. I mean, I think we all expected this if the GOP won the House, and now we're finding payments going to all kind of family members in the Biden family. It's starting to look more and more like a big mafia crime family all the time. And today even there was a hearing by one of the committees with the head of the ATF, and immediately went into why didn't you arrest Hunter Biden for his falsified pistol application, and that whole meeting blew up because the head of the ATF could not answer that, and it's the heat is turning up in the fact that the evidence is coming out. It's clear the president is doubling down, saying it's all lies, nothing's happened. His spokespeople are saying the same thing. Um, I try to imagine what those conversations are like in behind closed doors between Hunter Biden and his parents, or the senior presidential staff about, dude, there's got to be a lot of whiskey tango foxtrots. Like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah,
I mean, Jimmy Carter thought Billy embarrassed him.
yeah,
Bill Clinton thought Roger embarrassed him. I
yeah. Hunter's
mean,
like, hold my beer.
Hunter's like, yeah,
Hold,
Hunter's
hold
like,
my bagpipe.
hold my crack pipe and my
Yeah,
two
hold
hookers. Right.
my crack. Yeah,
Uh,
it's something. I mean, you can't, as the president, I can see him not really being able to address that. I mean, what do you say to that? Yeah, my son's a crackhead and he did all these things. Oh, and I was part of it. That's not going to happen. So then
well,
now it's up to how bad it really is, getting the real information, the facts, and bringing it out. So I just like, I thought it was a witch hunt when they went after some of the Trump stuff, especially the election interference and the Russian scandal.
right,
But part of me was actually, and this might be a little weird sounding, but part of me was glad they did it because they didn't find the stuff. They couldn't prove that he did it,
right.
right? So, okay, then you have transparency, and I love transparency in government. Investigate stuff, see what happened, put it out there, but put the real stuff out there, put the real data, right? The information. And so I'm hoping that's what happens with this now that Republicans are in Congress, or they have the House and they're doing these investigations. Get real information. Don't do the easy, low hanging like gotcha political stuff. Give real meaty
Or
things
as
like what
always,
you do.
anonymous whistleblowers, right? As always,
Yeah. How much money got transferred from China to whatever holding company?
right.
What was the level of deal that went on with Ukraine, and where's the contracts? Find that stuff. The other things, get away from the political gotcha moments, which those are great for sound bites, I suppose, and all. But just as a citizen who I'm kind of a little wonkish, I want to know what actually happened. And I'm hoping that this will either clear the air and go, yeah, they did some stuff, but it wasn't as bad as what people are thinking it is. And it is what it is, and then it is just political sound bites. Or, hey, this is what really happened. We got a real issue, and there's charges. here we go. Let's handle this.
Well,
Let's deal with our business and clean our house.
I mean, any parent's gonna love their kids unconditionally for just about anything, and yeah, I wouldn't blame Joe Biden for doing that with him, even though Hunter has done a number of things that are just reprehensible, including
Reprehensible,
banging his the widow of his brother and everything else, but getting strippers pregnant and then denying it, all that stuff. And but so either one of a couple things: either Joe Biden is completely weak and likes being bullied, or has no problem being bullied by his own family members, and just or Hunter Biden is very, very manipulative. Because it'd be one thing, hey, he did it. I mean, Joe Biden could have approached this and said, look, he's a grown man. He's made mistakes. None of us are perfect, regardless of what your last name is or what your
yeah.
job is or whatever. I still love him. I hope the best comes out, and leave it
Right.
at that. But you double down and say, smartest guy I know, smartest man,
Lies,
like
lies, lies.
right,
Yeah.
right, smartest
That's,
guy I know. Like what?
yeah.
Like you would just like, he's not, he don't even know where his laptops are. He throws a pistol in here, and he just gets on benders and just videos everything. And thank God that guy at the Mac shop was not a ultra left and just buried that thing, because it's just, that laptop has been the gift that keeps on giving. Even the fact that they deny, and now all of a sudden they're suing the Hunter Biden suing the Mac shop, saying, hey, you shouldn't have gave my stuff away. Oh, so you said it is yours. Like, and after 3 years of denying it, you admit it's yours, because you're saying that I had, even though he does, because his contract says it becomes his rights. But when you come out and sue the guy and say, hey, you shouldn't have let you shouldn't have shared my PI and shared my sensitive data. Oh, I
Yeah.
thought that wasn't your laptop. It's like,
Right.
it's like when you ask a teenager, like, what is, does that taste like beer? And they go, no. Then you go, how'd you know what beer tastes like? Oh, best trick ever when you got an under 21-year-old teenager. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that taste
Or
like
private.
whiskey? Do you think it tasted like wine? No, I don't think so. Oh, how'd you know what wine tastes like? The look on her face is priceless. It's just worth every bit. But it's, so now you've got, he's not backing off. He's not going, look, you made this bed, you got to sleep in it, whatever. I'll pardon you, which he could do, and everyone would expect him to do. But unless, they drag this out and he doesn't get charged till after Biden's out of office, and a Republican comes in, God help him if Trump gets elected in there. He'll be waiting right by. But it's you could do that and say, I love my son. He made mistakes. He's got to own up for it and be responsible. That's what being an ethical, being a man's all about, and that kind of stuff. He would garner a hell of a lot more respect from people.
Oh yeah. He would have, because
Right.
that ship sailed at this point.
Right,
You know.
right. But if he was making crap loads of money too, and thanks to the laptop, we see the emails and the texts. We see Hunter Biden making fun of his dad's dementia years ago. We
Yeah.
see him talking about giving money to how he's having to pay for their house payment and all this kind of stuff. It's just like, yeah, that it's never going to happen. But I just hope that they continue on with this, and they execute on something, or someone, the prosecuting attorney that's out there that's not partisan, has a pair of balls, will look this up and go after it, or something. But they can't just nurse this out and just think it'll fade away, because
Yeah.
he needs to be held accountable. It's not like he had a couple of traffic tickets or DUI and they're just pushing under the rug. I mean, there's
Serious things. Yeah. This
yes,
was. It wasn't misdemeanor or low level felony or things that, like, normal person could get
right.
who make bad decisions. This is like repeated behavior and actively going and pursuing smoking crack, and then going out and engaging in business activities with nefarious characters in foreign
On
governments.
the
I mean,
international market, and
yeah,
yeah,
a little
exactly.
beyond.
Right. But yeah. So hey, we're winding down near the end. Another thing I want to hit on, I want to get your opinion on, is we've seen a lot over the years, but it's becoming more and more. And I'm interested in what your opinion is on these transgender athletes, on these, which ironically mostly are males transitioning to females that are trying to
Right.
compete, not the other way around. I could be wrong, and anyone could let me
There's been a
know.
couple, but they don't place well.
Yeah, I don't see too many females transitioning to males and getting in the NFL game, or a team,
Right.
or Major League Baseball, or even rugby, right? Something. It all seems to be one way. I'm just curious what, as we see this happen more and more, and now some pushback happening. Now
Yeah, I
people,
like the pushback. I'm a
uh,
big fan of the pushback, especially because it's coming from women within the sport. One of the things I personally, and I guess everyone's got to do this, you got to do the disclaimer ahead of time. I don't care what somebody feels like they are, believes they are, or actually are. If you feel like you're a woman and you transition and go through that stuff and that's your life, I'm going to respect that. I might not understand it. I might not agree with it. I don't have to. I'm going to respect that. Cool. That's you. Go for it. But when you start talking about organized sports in a competitive situation and the fairness factor comes in, and fairness is, somewhat subjective, somewhat. And you have somebody that biologically has is predispositioned to more strength, higher agility, different types of testosterone for endurance, more muscle mass, more bone mass, all these different things that qualitatively equate to and relate to increased performance. How can you take someone who's been competing with other males and then move them over just because now past a certain point, if they've already developed, now they've got hormone treatments, they've gone through maybe a gender reassignment surgery, whatever it is, but all that muscle mass is still there. All that bone mass is still there. That ability, that physical prowess, that's genetics is there.
right.
That's not fair to me. And that's where I think, if they want to do this as far as the sport, when I say they, if the sports organizations want to have a league or a competition situation where transgender athletes can compete, well, create a joint sport. Do it where it's co-ed. That way, it doesn't matter.
They
Every
did that in hockey,
Yeah,
and a dude transitioning to a woman plowed a woman transitioning a dude into the boards and freaking crushed her freaking head.
which
Right.
is awful,
Right. Right.
but that's their choice,
Right.
so I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
You choose to get on the ice in that co-ed and be in that situation, well, you know the risk, right? And that's what it is. That's why you don't see females playing in professional football, except you'll see like in college kickers.
Right.
That because they can do that. And hey, cool. If someone's physical ability allows them to do something, right on. Because and there's extremes all across the board. We're talking
Right.
standard deviation here.
Right. We both know, I'm sure there's women that we look at that they're just born with it. They're just,
Oh, they're
built a way
massive.
that you're like that.
Yeah.
She kicked my ass. Like
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah, there are absolutely women who, when I was back in my physical days, when I was working out, I mean, I think I was benching like 350 was my max when I was a gym rat. I was, doing stuff, and I go out and do sports, and I could play. There were some women that could beat me, 100%,
Yeah.
hands down. I
But
wasn't
they
a
but they were
professional athlete.
anomalies. They
I
weren't the
didn't pretend to
norm.
be a professional athlete because professional athletes are the exception by nature. They're
Right.
already the exception.
Right.
So then
Right.
when you take two extremes and try to match them up, it doesn't fit. And
Right.
then you create those situations like where that person got boarded by a biological male and caused an injury. And that's
Right.
why you don't see females playing in the NFL where you have a 380-pound lineman or 400-pound lineman who's benching 500 pounds and squatting almost 1,000, hitting them. A biological female mostly is not going to be able to handle that. They're
Right.
going to crumple. They're going to get injured, right?
Right.
The biggest one that I see that sticks out is the swimmer. I always forget the fellow's name or the lady's name now.
I
But
think
I
his
always
name is
mess up
Leah
on that.
or something like that.
Leah, right? Leah
Yeah.
Thomas
Yeah.
or Thomas or
Rob will let
Thompson.
us know that Rob, the unpaid
Yeah,
producer, will
Rob.
pipe in any second
Rob can
with,
look up the
he'll have
research.
her stats and all that stuff in a second. Yeah.
Yeah, but that person was at the bottom of the rung in collegiate
Yeah. Couldn't, it
swimming.
was like
Right?
ranked in the hundreds. Like couldn't, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was like 130, 140, something like that, right? So jumps over to the women's side, and all of a sudden, consistently ranked in the top 10
Right.
and
Right.
winning most of the meets.
That's
Had
what
lost a
gets
couple
me,
times.
right. That is that after years of from the early 70s, the National Organization for Women and Women's
Thanks,
Rights and
bro.
Equal Rights and all this kind of stuff. And yes, thank you, Rob. Good one. Now you have like women. I mean, you have, whether it's Caitlin or Bruce or whatever you call them, on the cover of, women's magazines, men, women, women's beauty contests, men, women winning sports. It's like, Jesus Christ, can women get a chance to come? I mean, you're literally, it's the most, to me, it's one of the most chauvinistic things this country's ever had happen when you have men winning and taking over everything that was just for women, so they had an equal footing and had a chance to, right? I
Well,
mean,
just like the
if
administration.
if the left wants to be equal, get rid of the WNBA, mix them in with the NBA, and
You see what
freaking
happened?
best one wins, right? There you go.
Well, Dave Chappelle does a great skit on that. He talks about how LeBron James, who decided to transition to being a woman and went the WNBA, he'd score like 1,000 points a game and would just dominate, right?
Right.
Um, but you were talking about how women or biological males who have transitioned are now being lauded as, special women and getting special recognition, like Caitlyn Jenner being Woman of the Year. Or recently there was International Women's Day, and the administration
Yep.
highlighted I think it was an Argentinian person who had transitioned to female as one
Yes.
of the like, international women of the world. And that's just, and maybe I'm old school and my 46-year-old brain's having a hard time adjusting. Um, I don't know if that's it or not, but that's hard to reconcile.
I mean, it's right up there with Black History Month and all these news and media organizations that highlight and profile, historic Black Americans. Uh, uh, you know, recognizing like that chick out in Seattle or someone that says, well, they identify as Black, so we're going to recognize them, right? We're gonna,
Oh yeah,
you know,
there would
we're
be a
gonna for
massive.
Black History Month 2024, we're going to profile Donald
Yeah.
Trump, who claims now he's the first black president, or actually, as Bill Clinton.
Bill
Bill
Clinton,
Clinton
first
claimed he
black
was the
president.
first black president, and he's the
Yeah,
star of the NAACP is going to honor him as the first black president. Barack Obama be like, "What the are you talking about?" Right?
yeah.
It's right up there. So you're recognizing women for being women, but you're recognizing a man who says now they think they're a woman. You may feel that way. That's awesome that you feel like you're a
Live your
woman
life
and you want
that
and
way.
you want
That's
to live
part
your
of
life that way, but you were not that way. And it's like I was telling someone the other day, and I say it all the time. There are only two genders, male and female. There's like 37 types of gay, but there's only two genders, right? When you buy the coexist shirt, it's in male or female. When you buy, the rainbow flag hat or jacket, it's like male or female. That's it. Now, how you feel, what fluid, what binary, what you flip a quarter every day to decide who you're going to love that day. That's up to you. But there's a big difference between a gender, right, and your level of whatever you want to be in. Now, if you cut all your stuff off or whatever you have to do, and you do all that stuff, okay, you're so into it, you want to be as close to what it's like to be that gender as possible. Awesome. But you were still a dude, or you're still, yeah, I guess in that case you still be a dude.
Well, I
Right.
think, but that really comes down to the mental side of things. And I mean, homosexuality has been around ever since there's been
Right.
people, right? Humanity. That's just what it is. And some
Right.
people are wired different, and I can accept that and understand it.
Right.
It's the cliche thing. I have tons of gay friends. I do. I have a lot of gay friends. I have friends who have transitioned, and I respect that that's who they are.
Right.
Um, when it comes to the sports, and I'm a pretty big fan of LGBTQ rights. I mean, they're people.
Right.
People are people, and people are strange. It's how much strange crap I've seen straight people do,
Right.
especially in the military, in the barracks. I mean, you're talking like a whole level of kind of demented in some of this stuff. So, people are people, and I'm all about recognizing superior performance, accomplishment, and
Right.
other types of achievements of people, and go, hey, great job. Let's celebrate that because everyone can contribute in some way or another. When it starts turning into a thing of, okay, I have to now worry about my daughter who's pretty athletic, and at 12 years old, she's pretty strong for her age, definitely. But now she's going to be competing with biological males in high school. I have to sit back as a parent and go, okay, is that really safe for my daughter? Okay, is
Right.
she going to be playing in a physical sport? Is it softball? How fast is this person going to be pitching compared to other people that's pitching?
Well,
They're
look at
going
what happened
crazy.
at that YMCA and stuff, where a male walks into the locker room, right? And strips down, goes, "I feel like a female," and
That's
walks
right.
around with a raging heart on and getting the showers. I mean, as a parent of
That's
a
not going to go
female,
well with me. I mean, I
no,
can just tell you,
no.
I'm going to have a problem.
Or
You
that's
know?
why most people won't let their loved one go in the bathroom at Target. When Target started allowing that number of years ago, it was like,
Yeah,
and they
that's
were
the stuff I
catching
have a problem.
people. They were catching people taking advantage of that for their own
That's right.
perversion, right?
And that's
Um,
the sad part is that there are people that will take advantage, and
yeah,
that's statistically a pretty small number of people, but
Well,
it's
look at that.
enough.
Look at the prisoner, right? The guy identified
Yeah,
as a female and he impregnated like 3 or 4 prisoners. And
yeah,
now he's suing. He's mad because they put him in a male prison. Like, dude, you're knocking up everything you can find. Like,
yeah.
what do you expect?
Well,
But
he's that special kind of female that has a penis.
right. Yeah. I think Jim Jeffries talked about that, which by the way, he has a brand new comedy special out. I watched it this morning on Netflix and he's a pretty crass comedian, but he hits on this topic and it is spot on. And he talks about that, hey, you could do whatever you want, but if you've cut off your penis, that I'm going to sit down and talk with you. He's like, I got a lot of questions. He's like, you're an interesting person to talk to at a party. And that's what I'm saying. Where like if you go to that extreme, it's not a
You're committed.
it's not a
Yeah.
fad, right? It's not a
No,
fad. It's like
no,
not a
you're
cool thing to do, right? You could
like,
be a drag queen all day and
yeah.
be a businessman during the week and go be drag queen on the weekend. But when you start
That's
cutting parts off, it's like you're all in. All chips are on black, right?
right.
You're on red, either one. But yeah,
And for an adult, hey, cool, whatever. If that's what you want to do, if that's where you're at and that's your mental space, right on.
right.
When it comes
As an
to
adult, yes.
teenagers and children, that's where I think we are getting so sideways on this thing. My daughter for a while they're dressed like a tomboy. She wanted to play in the mud all the time, play with boys' toys. And then on the other side, then like 6 months later, she was back to wearing dresses and having princess parties and tea parties and having her dolls and stuffies.
And
So she
people now
goes
seem to be
back and
taking it
forth.
extreme. Like some parents would have seen that and go,
Yeah,
"Oh, my daughter's a boy. You're a boy. Do you know that? Oh, and we got to get you the just because they're going through a phase and be
that's
like,
right. They're learning who they are. That's all
right.
it is.
It doesn't
They,
mean
they,
that they're
they
going
don't
one way or
know
the
enough
other.
about sex at that point. Just
When I
yeah,
hear when I hear someone
they're
like the head
natural.
of the president of Disney, I think she was at one point talking about their 7-year-old queer gender fluid son or daughter or whatever, like what, like they don't know, or teachers of elementary middle school talking about how they so proudly told their kids all about their sex life. Like when I was in school, even in the high school, I didn't know about any of my teachers' sex life, nor did I care. No, it's not what I thought about. If I had a hot teacher, I'd be like, wow, she's hot. But that would have been about the extent of it. It wasn't like, I wonder what they're, it was like, no, it's
Well,
for that age at elementary, it's almost like people
elementary, high school, we had a couple of lesbian teachers,
yeah,
and they
you
were a
always do.
couple. So it was kind of the thing. It was a
You
small
knew,
town.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we knew,
yeah,
but
you knew.
they didn't
Usually
care.
gym
And
teachers,
actually,
usually
most of
gym
them were some of my
teachers,
favorite teachers.
right? Usually gym teachers, probably. Just saying, it probably is.
Science teacher and librarian,
Oh
actually,
wow, okay.
and
But
both
but
were great teachers.
but some of these liberals are like they're competing to see who can have the
Yeah, that's
youngest kid
breaking.
transitioning, right?
Yeah,
And now we have young people in early 20s, that are suing, trying to reverse because they realize,
yeah,
man,
because they
the
did that.
cerebral cortex is not developed to the 26.
That's it.
They don't know what they're doing. You know,
I mean, let's think it. Let's face this: a person in the United States can't get alcohol legally until 21. But as a teenager, they can decide to cut off their genitals. That just is insane to me. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
right?
I
We don't
mean,
trust them to vote. Now we may not even trust them to have a firearm until 21,
yeah,
and all that stuff.
yeah,
But
any
yes,
firearm.
when I was little, when I was in some of these ages, I wanted to be a truck driver, an astronaut. I remember one time I remember telling my parents I wanted to work at a gas station. I thought that was a cool thing to pump gas because I was a freaking kid. I was I
Yeah,
was elementary. I didn't know any better. If I mean,
that's right.
I remember as a kid telling my mom, I remember falling around when I was probably in second, third grade. I used to act like I was a puppy dog. And we had a dog, and I'd run around on my hands and knees and all that stuff to my mom. And I remember she thought it was cute and all that stuff. That doesn't mean I was like into being a
Yeah,
dog and identifying as that. It
yeah,
was
you're
just I
living
was
dog
having
lifestyle.
fun. I was having fun. I
I
was a
like
little
that. I think
kid.
Rob said 5-year-olds want to be Batman.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
And
look at our
some of
mutual
these
friend. His son thinks he's Batman. Wears a suit all the time.
right,
The other
right.
one thinks he's Hulk. I mean,
But
it is what it is.
it needs to be you get over 18 when you can vote, when you can get tattoos, when you can do this, do whatever, or you get over 21, whatever, then you make the decision. And
Yeah,
if someone, a young person, is saying, hey, mom or dad, at preteen or teen level, I think I'm this or that or whatever, you talk with them about it, you show unapologetic love and all that stuff. But what you
that's
don't
right.
start doing is mutilating genitals, taking hormone therapy, doing all that stuff. You see, let's see where this goes.
Yeah,
Right.
you hold off on that because I
Right.
mean, I had a friend in the Air Force. He passed away in Korea in a motorcycle accident. And he has a son that I think he was 9 or so when I first met him. We immediately thought, okay, he's probably going to be gay when he grows up. He was a 9-year-old, right? But you're like, you
Right.
don't know, maybe. Well, guess what? He grew up. He's gay.
Right.
He's a great guy. Great guy. Adopted this young girl, and he's got his husband. He lives
But
here in
he had the
Florida.
tendencies. You kind of spotted it.
Yeah,
You were like,
had the
yeah,
tendency, spotted him, but there wasn't a conversation about, "Hey, do you wanna be a female?" It was, like, "Okay, you're figuring out who you are." When I actually reconnected with him and his mother, about, I guess, 2 months ago. It was great. I hadn't seen him since Korea till, like, 2004, I think was the last time I saw him, and it was me like, "Hey, how's it going?" Give him a big hug. Proud of the guy. He's really done well for himself,
right.
but he had to figure out who he was, and he had time to develop, and there was the love and acceptance of who he is, and I think that's what's needed. Parents need to love their kids and help them through change, not force it on them because of some warped kind of perception of what reality is.
Some kids going through being geeks. They're goth. They're
Yeah,
they're heavy metal, pothead. They're just kids go through all kind of stuff. They're always trying to figure out who they are, what circle they want to fit in, where they want
that's
to
right.
go in life, right? But that doesn't mean the first second that they do that you go, oh, that's where you're at. Let me shove you all into that side, right?
Yeah, we're all
And
in.
right, right.
Yeah,
Let them be adults, right? When they're old enough to vote and all that kind of stuff, and live on their own and be considered adults by the system, regardless of where they are mentally. But as long as adults by the system, then you decide what you want to do. But it's like I've told every one of my kids, right? Once you get that age, it's on you. But big boy rules apply at that point. And
hey, you your decisions and you live with the consequences.
right. Yeah, well, yeah. So, anyways, it's my biggest thing on the trains is just the unfairness in the sports and the athletes. Like I say, I'm with you. I don't care what they do, whatever you want to do, whatever. I've seen some drag queens which perform awesome, and it's just they're funny and they put on a great show and they do stuff and they have fun with it. I don't know what their sexual preference is. Just because someone dresses up like that on the weekend has fun with it, or it doesn't mean that they may go home to a wife and kids. I don't know. I don't really care. But when you are out there, women are I think no one will argue that men are physically stronger and more powerful when it comes to physical activities and sports, and this
They're
on the
tip-
norm. And 99% are that way, right? There's always that some that are there are dudes that most women could beat their butts because they're just tiny little people that are frail, right?
Yep.
But for the most part, we're just built that way. And to take that away from women who probably have some of these, like these swimmers and stuff that have trained their entire lives, put everything they had into it, whatever sport they are, whatever they do, and to have it taken from them in the last little bit of time because someone says I feel like a man now, and then you find out what that's because you can. I mean, it's like, hey, I never get picked for the varsity for the college football team. I'm going to go down and play high school football, right, and crush them. I mean, that's literally what you're doing.
I'm
You're
going
such
to
a
dominate. Yeah.
right. It's like, hey, I always lose at high school in dodgeball. I'm going to go play the elementary kids, right? And you're going to crush them. That's literally what is happening when you think about the disparity of physical size and strength and everything else. I mean, I coached
Yeah.
hockey for years. I would never let a 14U hockey player go down and play with 10U kids,
No.
9 and
Kill
10
'em.
year olds. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
you
was
hurt
like,
somebody.
you may not be able to score at 13, 14-year-olds at your peers, but you'll go end to end at that level and clear everyone off the ice. That's not fair. That's literally the same thing that's happening with transgender athletes,
Yeah.
right? Absolutely the same thing. And it just it astounds me that probably some of these people that are okay with that definitely aren't okay with maybe a kid coming down 3 or 4 ages and playing their kid in a sport. I guarantee you they would not be okay with that, whether it's
A
on the
lot of it comes down to the personalization of it, right? When it personally affects them, that's when people go, "Oh, wait, that's not fair."
oh, the
Because
old not in my backyard theory, right?
yeah, right?
Right.
And so when a person has their own child competing and they're getting just devastated by someone who's biological male, that's when a lot of people will go, maybe I made the wrong choice. Some people might stick to it. They're ideologically strong and they're going to stand by and go, well, that's just what it is. Hey, God bless them. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's what sports is about. When I played football in high school, anytime I've watched sports, been involved in sports, I coached high school sports, for a while there. It's all about the competitiveness and
Right.
being able to work as a team towards a goal. And I would have no problem with a female on the football team in high school, as long as they can tote the load. If they're
Right.
strong enough, physical enough, and they can get hit, they can do what's needed to be done. Cool. And there's a couple that are. There's some that are out there, but they're few and far between. Some
Right.
people would say, well, maybe they weren't given enough opportunity, or it's not normalized enough to allow them to feel like they can come out. But there are also stories of females coming out and competing for high school football spots, and they just got devastated. I mean,
Right. Right.
once the guys kind of released and just started hitting them like they were the guys, it didn't work out so well for
Right.
most of those that I've read about. Maybe there are some that did work out and were reported, but I didn't see them.
Yeah, when you start getting to that level, like you talked about, even in people that are pro athletes, they're already they're a different breed from everyone else because it just the percentage that make it into pro sports, they're pretty much, even if they're a team that doesn't do well, they're still like the creme de la creme to be able to
That's
do
right.
that. I mean,
You take the worst NFL team and put them up against the best college team, and the best college team is probably going to get the crap kicked out of them.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's just how it is.
It's a different level of everything for that. It's the same thing I've talked about with coaching hockey. Man, I was a head coach for a number of years, and I used to tell my parents at the start of the season every time, your kid, and this is house hockey, right? So if they were at the ages I coached, if they were going to be really competitive in NHL, they were already in competitive AA, AAA teams, and I'd be like, your kid has a better chance of owning an NHL team than ever playing on one. Right, it's just not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
If they're at this age and they are not in a hockey high school in Massachusetts or Wisconsin by now, right?
Probably not going to happen.
They're playing at that level. They're not playing in a pro junior team at 14, 15, 16. They're not getting there. But it's just not. It's like I say, it's a different level. The worst NFL team on a hangover day would probably crush Georgia, or any of the best, Alabama, University of Florida, any of the best NFL college teams, like nothing, because it's a different level. But hopefully, I keep saying hopefully, and I always say hope is not a method, but I just maybe enough of the folks will start paying attention and realize the whole transgender movement in sports and the way that it's going is about the most unfair thing this country's ever done to women, short of since they've gotten the rights to vote and everything else. I mean, it is pretty much since women got started being able to treat equal and get all the same rights as men, back during the suffrage movement and everything of that. This is pretty much the worst thing, in my opinion, the worst thing that's ever happened to women since. But
Well, the only thing to fix it is other women, because you and I talking, we're
yeah.
white. Our opinion really doesn't matter a whole lot on this to most
No.
people who are going to be making the decisions.
Well, there's women talking, like on a swimming team, Leah Thomas is, but it's who listens to them, right? It's is the narrative going to support that message, right? It's
women are going to have to stand up in these sports and go, you know what, we're not competing against that person.
We just saw that in Vermont, right?
Yeah,
we just saw it in Vermont.
Way it'll have anything happen.
Yeah, they said we're not competing, and the state said, well, then you're banned from the, like, okay, we're not gonna compete against some of the transgender. It just is not fair. Yeah, but
yeah.
All right, man. I kept you a long time. I really appreciate it. We went an hour and a half. This is what this show is like, dude. It's it goes by quick. We get to chatting, and but I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Anything you want to leave with our viewers and listeners? Any topics? Anything that's important? Any message that we didn't get out that you think it's important they hear?
Yeah, I would say just everyone on here, if you support veterans, pay attention to that potential rule change that's coming through. Talk to your representative about it. Make noise about that, because to me that's a travesty if that occurs, and that's really a complete disservice and a breaking of the social contract with military veterans. So that's something. As soon as I saw that, I got pretty fired up about it. Write your reps, just like Rob was just saying. Get involved, make noise, because noise is the only thing that will stop that kind of stuff from happening. If you don't, you're quiet, it's just going to slip through, and then a whole bunch of people, millions of people who served this country and gave themselves for it, their physical health, they're going to suffer for it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good thing. Yeah. Well, hey, thank you so much, Will. Appreciate you coming on. And great having that weatherman perspective. I know, you're like, dude, I don't do weather anymore, but still,
I haven't done weather in a while. People keep asking me, like, "What's the weather going to do?" I'm like, I don't know.
No, let me look at my phone. Yeah, it's gonna be partly cloudy with a chance of rain.
Yeah,
That's it.
pretty much.
All right. Well, hey, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I know it's been a couple weeks. I'm gonna try to get some more shows out. I know I keep saying that, but try to get some out. Stay tuned to the channel. Make sure you like us on Facebook, YouTube, and all the things. That's where they're going to be posting as I try to get some shorter, smaller episode, topic focused episodes out. And but until then, stay tuned. We'll see you guys next time. And Will, again, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for letting us in tonight.
I see you, man. Have a good one.
You too.
Take care, everyone.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Stu and the Nunn Show, and we hope you had as much fun listening to it as we did hosting it for you. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. You can find all these links at stewandthenunn.com. We will talk to you again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and BooHammer.com. Thank you again, and have a good night.